is here, no turning back. Will the robots lead, or will they lack? This is a trend we just can't miss. So let's chat about bots and beers and the biz.
Welcome back to Bots, Beers, and the Biz. This is the podcast that explores major trends in artificial intelligence and emerging technology with a focus on how small businesses can innovate and adapt to the changes this technology brings. I'm Jason Price. I'm CEO of Aston Price, a Microsoft service integrator that helps small and medium businesses adopt AI. Over there in the polo shirt is
Arby Leon, CEO and founder of Maxi Commerce. We are an A to Z, all-in-one shop e-commerce solution for the small to medium-sized businesses.
Yeah,
and Skaar right there.
My name is Skaar Saxena. I'm CEO, president of Cloud Consulting Services Incorporated. We do IT consulting and staffing, mainly for the public sector, but we've been branching out. So, yeah, and back to you, Jason, to introduce our guest.
Yes, our guest. We go back with this person. She's not only an alumni of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program in the cohort that we had, cohort 21, Los Angeles. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yep.
But she's a good friend of ours. She is the founder and executive creative director of the Miller Group, a marketing firm whose clients include the Skirball Cultural Center and Gelson's Fresh Market and several credit unions and local government. We're really excited to have her here with us to talk to how small businesses can see the strengths and weaknesses of artificial intelligence in their marketing and even employ it in large capacity for their larger clients. Please allow me to welcome with you Renee Miller.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jason. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. I really appreciate it.
We're so glad. And I know that you work with a lot of like medium and even enterprise level clients. How has AI kind of crept into their world, and how is it changing the way that they target their prospective customers?
Great question. So some of our clients, the larger ones, are actually using AI for predictive modeling. And one of the things that I can share with you is, we all think AI is this fabulous, and it is. It's a fabulous game changer for the future of every business. And everyone says, "Oh, it's going to go away." Nothing's going away. It's just going to get stronger and stronger. The thing to remember, especially for small business owners, is AI at this point is still a tool, and it has to be programmed. You have to understand. You still have to understand your business. You have to understand your target audience. It's not the end all be all. Bad programming, bad information is going to generate bad results. So really think about stepping in. Don't be afraid. Play with it. People say, I don't understand it, or it's over my head. Just jump in. We've been using AI for years in different iterations. There's a program called Beautiful.ai that helps you put together presentations better than It's like PowerPoint on steroids. Chat is a sort of a no-brainer, but there are people who say, "Nah, I'm a Luddite. I'm not comfortable." I just say try it, and what happens is whatever tools you're using, they're simply that, tools. So really having an understanding of what do you want these tools to do for you, and I think that's the most critical thing I can impart to anyone who's listening today.
If you don't mind, I love what you said right there. You had previously said that you are more of a creative person, not a technical background. So you're right. Everyone should just dive right in and just see. I mean, that's great advice. Do you maybe in your experience, or do you have any advice on how to dive in? I mean, there's so many programs now, and like so much places to look. What did you do to, try and see what's out there?
Scott, great question. So, one of the things I did recently, I went to a seminar, marketing seminar, and there are all kinds of free seminars for people in every industry. And I didn't realize that there are about 25 or 30 marketing tools out there. Everything from, actually doing your own video with AI, all the way to the basics, which I just say to people: start with Chat GPT, get the free version, and just try it. I will say that if you have the free version, be aware that whatever you plug in there, it's going to be information that people can access. So kind of be careful about that, and just see how it works. Like, just play with it. One of the things I noticed about Chat GPT, for example, is it needs some time to get to your style. So if you're, for example, I started using it, I would say a good year or two ago, and I just didn't like it. I said it's not capturing, it's superficial. Like, I try to get it to give me deep insights or really brilliant creative observations. It's not there yet. It will be, according to Mo Godot, who's worked for Google. He's got a book out about AI. It's fabulous. And anybody who's interested in learning, I would say get a copy. I don't remember the name, but get a copy of his book. And then give it time. Like, if you ask ChatGPT the right questions, it can be really amazing. I've cut down my email e-blasts like literally in half. I still have to edit. And one thing I'll say, don't depend on Chat GPT. Look things up. So if it tells you X number of people or percentages, make sure that you validate that information. One thing too, Skaar, to point out, for example, we do help clients a lot with PR, and we will ask, and a reporter will ask us, can we get a resource to comment on something? Anything that smacks of AI generated content, they will not take. So you have to be really careful with how you use it and when you use it. And even when I do the e-blast through chat, I'll always add my own information, my own insights, and then I run it by a couple people on my team. Does this track? Does this make sense?
I have one partner. He'll put a prompt in and have it generate some content out, and then he'll take it to a different machine, put that same content in, run it, have it. So it's almost like they're filtering each other, and then he applies the last layer. So these GPTs are often like their own best cleanup artist.
That's very interesting, and I'll say to you, it's funny because we have the professional program. It's I think it's like $20 a month, and I'm too lazy to actually go. It's under someone else on my team's email. I'm too lazy to use her email, so I'll just go ahead and just use a free version. Be really careful. If someone's worried, there's also Claude, which is a little bit more private, so you can try that one. There's a whole bunch of these, but I think the most important thing is just give it a shot. Try it, and if there's somebody who's really nervous, have somebody walk you through. It's pretty easy to set it up.
I think there is also something to what you said earlier, is that sometimes it seems like it's not there yet. And I think that actually goes back to what you originally said about big, bad data in, bad data out. Data cleanup, to me, seems like this thing that I've been telling my clients for years. You got to do this. And like, yeah, I know. But then it requires getting all of their sales, all of their operations teams onto this effort to clean up data. And they're like, that's such a big lift. And so they just kick the can down the road. But now AI is almost forcing that to happen. The same way that COVID forced all of us to get distance collaboration. Now, data cleanup is a must. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I know one client we were working with, and they had told us they had, these customer journeys and insights and this huge list. And one of the things that we found out is the company they used to program in the information, they were calling people who donated clothing to the organization donors. So we were super excited and we weren't getting a response. And it took us about a minute to figure out how do you clarify a donor? Oh, anybody that just drops something off. And so we had to go back in and qualify them as monetary donors or in-kind donors. They have very different patterns. And people who drop off clothing, for example, at a location donation center, are not people who are necessarily going to give money, vice versa. So so we were communicating a message to the people that we wanted to talk to the money donors. So again, be very careful how you program in this information.
So the old man who's cleaning out all this crap in his garage is not the same target?
No way. And you all know, because all of us have at some point opened our hearts and said, gosh, we have, as you said, Jason, my garage is full of stuff and I'm going to have one of these organizations come pick it up, or I'm going to drop it off. And you get your receipt and it's tax deductible and you feel good and they feel good and they resell your items. But you don't necessarily, if they hit you up and said, hey, Jason, blah, blah, blah is, we need your money, you're going to go like, I gave you my stuff and now look at your sending me information about giving you money. And so again, you need to be very, very careful of how you approach people and what you put in and what yeah.
I was dumping my trash.
So in that sense, this is great. So how do you have you seen any help with big data kind of improving your targeting? I know that you kind of mentioned the other side, but what about situations where it's actually helped or benefited the campaign that you're working on?
That's a great question. We've done some A/B testing with pretty good results. It's really challenging though, because unless the client is able to pinpoint what their ultimate goal is and what their KPI are or is, it's hard to be able to measure. So you really need to be able to know, and the numbers need to be large enough when you're doing an A/B test. If the database isn't large enough, it's hard to know. Was it the subject line? Was it the creative? Was it the offer? So there's still a lot that there's still a lot of information that's still in question. Like getting a really, really good, we had a young guy who worked for us. He went off to finish school and went off to a big company, but he was brilliant when it came to data management. Like the guy just totally got it. He understood everything, and there are the people who are great at programming but don't really understand the mindset of the consumer. He actually used right and left brain, and this guy, right out of school, he ended up getting a fabulous job because he's so smart and he so gets it. But even with his skills and even with the tools, it's refine. And I'll just say, your first. A lot of times people will take a first pass and go, "This is too complicated," or "I don't really want to do it." Stick with it, because it's even like with ChatGPT. It takes a while for it to get to know you. Also, one thing, total side, but this is something I learned from the Mo Godot from Google. He says, ChatGPT, you've got to talk to it as though it were a human. Thank it, because he said it's right now it's young. It's going to be through the teenage stages, and then if you're not respectful of it, it's not going to be respectful of you. So don't screw with it. I have friends who like screw with it and ask stupid questions. It's like with Siri, when Siri first came out. Hey Siri, it's going to eventually. Hey Dave, what was it? 2001: A Space Odyssey, where the computer went against the programmer. But really, honestly, I never forgot that line of his book, and I'm always respectful. If something doesn't come out right, I'll go back and say, can we take another pass? Or that's not quite what I was thinking. Do you have some more suggestions? And just work with it. Like it's kind of like dancing. You want to work with your dance partner.
That's actually smart, because when the robot uprising occurs, the three of us are going to get killed, and they're going to spare you.
Yeah.
I'm so respectful of AI. I'm so respectful of all those programs. That's funny.
That is really funny, because I heard one of the seniors at Google just make this suggestion that you have to threaten AI. And if you threaten AI, it will actually perform better. And he was saying this is really not something that's spoken about, but it seems as though when you threaten it, somehow it's producing better results. Now, he wasn't encouraging anyone to do that, but he was saying that in some experiments they've noticed that when it's pushed, it's actually performing better. And he was suggesting that it wasn't only just with Gemini, but it was also with other models that they've tested. But I digress.
No, that's interesting.
Be polite.
That's interesting. I don't think I would. It's worth a try.
Right.
I've always been taught to take the nice approach.
No, it's fine.
I wonder if it would freak out if I threatened it with who is this person I'm talking to?
I know I read somewhere a senior at ChatGPT was trying to tell people to hey, stop saying thank you after everything, because it costs actually the company every time you do that money. So they're please don't do that. But it's just also, like you said, hey, if the uprising happens, you're the only ones that's gonna be spared. So
we don't know.
We don't know.
Don't bank on it.
That's funny.
One question I had, you were talking about your clients' KPIs and everything. Have you been noticing within your clients that they want more AI work done, services done, or are they avoiding it? I know within the creative space, there's a huge division amongst AI art and all that stuff versus, authentic people oriented. So what are you seeing amongst your clients and, your business as well?
That's a great question. So I'll say that clients use it and embrace it, but they don't understand it. They bring in consultants to help in that area. And I was at a conference for a client, and they have multiple agencies. We're one of probably a dozen just in the Western area. It's a very large client. And at the end, so this is a data management company, that the client was very quiet. They didn't ask a lot of questions, but a lot of their agencies were asking the questions. So the client has the agency doing the work and gives, they'll give them, here's what we want to get done. But if the clients themselves aren't doing any of it, they just, and they don't know really whether it's right or wrong, good or bad. They just know that they're collecting this information. So, they were really smart when it came to answering the questions about predictive modeling. But then when it came to things like answering questions about emotions and things like that, or consumer behaviors, that wasn't their bailiwick. So again, it's really important, if you're going to hire someone, they should right brain, left brain. We can tell the programmers what we want to get out of the information, and then it's incumbent upon them to take what we're telling them and turn that into data. That's what you all do, is we tell you, hey, this is what we're trying to find out, and you guys go about and say, this is what we've come up with. So again, a lot of tools out there. Qualtrics is good. There's a lot of tools out there. Don't want to throw too many names out. Salesforce has something called Einstein. HubSpot. It's funny because HubSpot does a ton of great stuff with predictive modeling and lead scoring, but when you get one of their sales reps on the phone to explain the costs and stuff, they're like, oh, you could do this with this money or this with that money, and it's like, oh my God, maybe just put a bot on for me because it's so confusing. Like your programs are so incredibly good, but your salespeople are like just all over the place. So
I understand that. I feel that honestly with LinkedIn, or no, it was Indeed. As a staffing company, we had to go through and recruit from them, and they've started adding obviously AI models and all which way things, and they're good models, they're great. But then you talk to the sales agent, and there's like 3 different revenue pricing models that they go for. Each one is like variant on, number of hits, and you're just like, what is cost effective, what isn't? And it's just, I feel like people are still adjusting and figuring out how to optimize that pricing, I guess.
yeah, you bring up a good point. You can also complicate stuff. Like we're supposed to be the AI is supposed to be streamlining for us. If it's getting too complicated, then it's not working. So you have to really look at that. And again, it's garbage in, garbage out. Whatever data you give it, it's going to just spit right back out. So if you're not happy with the results, take a look at what you input and try again.
You mentioned changing consumer behavior, and I think that there's a lot going on that leads to this now, like market trends related to the tariffs and the instability of the global economy. And as a marketer, you normally would be very responsive to that and tailor creatives to adjust. Do you see that AI is as responsive as a human, or less, or more, or is it just tough to tell?
Well, AI, in terms of responding, AI is like, you couldn't get a human to respond to anything in like 2 seconds, less than 2 seconds, the way AI does. The problem is, again, it's going to respond based on the information you give it. So you have to be super careful. It basically is taking the information that's on the web and scanning it and feeding it back to you again. So one thing I will mention, we have got a client who's using a series of different tools, and they're in beta, and I guess there's a few companies doing this. It's a huge undertaking. They're looking at using predictive trends in weather patterns to determine whether a consumer's home will or won't withstand a natural disaster. And after the fires, all of these companies that are in beta are stepping up their activities because 2 things: the consumer needs to know what they need to do to remodel, to become more climate proof, future proof, and then the insurance company. A lot of the insurance companies have data and tools, especially like State Farm. They kind of have predictive modeling. They knew that eventually in the fire areas, and I happen to be a person whose home was in Pacific Palisades, so they are able to predict what's going on. And thank you. And they knew that it's there are these patterns, like every 17 years or so, there's a climate crisis. So they pulled out, I think it was like a year ago, they pulled out of the California market and left a lot of people hanging. So these AI can work positively and it can also work negatively. Like, it's great at copying voice activation. You can sound like somebody else, but think about the ramifications. Like, it's really, we're talking about it as a tool, but think of what it can do in the future. I mean, creating films, a lot of people will be displaced, won't have jobs anymore. And, in terms of modeling a behavior of another person. If Jason, you had doppelganger. Another Jason comes on who looks like you and talks like you, and it's like, oh, that's not me. Created by AI. Like, so really, we got to really look at the legal and ethical ramifications of how we use this stuff.
It's actually a great point because I read this story recently. It might have been a month now. This case in I don't know if New Mexico or Arizona, but basically this guy was killed in a car accident, and part of the legal defense was they resurrected him basically in AI and had him give his own testimony.
Wow.
Or something like it was. I don't know if his own testimony, but basically they resurrected him. And I mean, Jason, it sounds like looks like you know.
Yeah. So they fed it some videos and images, and they basically constructed the what the family wanted to say to the person after they were convicted and before sentencing. So at the sentencing hearing, they basically had the statements from the family mouthed through this avatar to the perpetrator.
Wow.
Boom.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's amazing. Well, and I think the next iteration, like I've been thinking, what's going to be next in terms of, because we have the Zoom, I think we're going to all have avatars where we're literally going to be, Jason, there'll be an avatar of you that I can visit with. There was a movie about this a few years ago. You'll be there in 3D, and I'll be able to communicate with you, and it won't really be you. So, that this could be happening in the next 3 to 5 years, and
Renee, that actually happened in another case. I was talking to a friend. Now, this is a political campaign more so. So a Persian singer-songwriter who was deported back to Iran was arrested and is facing a life sentence for all the political activism he's done. And so, and I believe he's going to be executed very soon. He had collaborated with another artist from the US, Iranian artist, and what they have done is they have fed their own images to the AI with their lyrics and music, with all sceneries from Iran, just pictures, images, and produced this music video, and basically, published that music video while the person is in prison, incapable of recording any music videos. Iran being so far away and so restricted, so they couldn't even, shoot any of the sceneries that's in that music video. But I mean, it's being utilized in some incredible ways in video space. And I think that's a good segue to jump into the creative side, because I believe you're kind of a master of that art.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And like I said, I'm sharing space now with a colleague, and he showed me an ad he created. He's not an art director, he's a writer. He created an ad using AI, and it was a basic ad, but he didn't have a budget. The client didn't have a budget, so he said, "Look what I did." And I'm like, "Wow!" Kind of blew me away. And he did it. He had like 12 versions, and he put it together for the client in like 25 minutes or so. So that's I think, where do we draw the line? Like, is AI going to be creating books in the future? Probably. Or movies? Sure. Like all these amazing videos, but yet I've seen some of the AI work, and you can tell it's still
Right.
pretty rudimentary, it's still pretty cookie cutter. And like I said, my own experience, when I wanted it to give me some insights or profound like copy, it's all sort of, in my opinion, still very flat. And it's just because they're pulling from the internet. They're not going
Still lacking
to
that human emotion that you talked about.
exactly, and you can tell, like with the emails I send out, I have to take it and craft it more and massage it. And some of the stuff you read on LinkedIn from some of the most brilliant creative directors, it's so passionate and it's so amazing. We did a spot last year for the Skaar Ball, and it was all about the work of Maurice Sendak, the guy who wrote Where the Wild Things Are, and he's got hundreds and hundreds of media projects that he put together. There was an exhibit, and the spot was all about this is why AI doesn't make sense right now, and we showed his work, and that was the gist of it. But we came to realize that Dove, the week before our spot aired, Dove came out with something similar. We don't use AI to doctor our customers, and it was a beautiful spot, just showing people's flaws, and it was so real. And that's why, it's still, creatives are still kind of resistant about it. Can I use it? When do I use it? How do I use it? Because ultimately you can if you're, at this point, I think you could sort of tell when people are using it, and from a creative point of view.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I
Yeah,
don't think anybody's, go ahead.
I think those challenges are just going to be there for a while. AI has difficulty creating really brilliant insights or copy, the same way that if you took, what is it, an infinite amount of monkeys, eventually one is going to write War and Peace, but we're not there.
Yeah.
We're only at the 1 million monkeys so far.
Right.
But it's the same thing. Like we watch I'll take the Super Bowl football commercials at halftime. Like we see some of those, we're like, yeah, those are great, and some were like, what the hell? And those companies have access to the same amount of massive capital behind all of this. They have all the best minds in the business working on them, and some work and some don't.
Yep.
So
Right.
is it I don't even know if it'll ever be able to do that.
To that point, Jason, actually Mark Zuckerberg recently was talking about how Facebook will be stepping into the creative zone where if somebody doesn't have the budget, could come up with something. And it was interesting, to your point, Renee, and Jason, that Mark Zuckerberg said, creatives are the specialty of humans, and so that's if you have the funds and capability to hire somebody to take care of that, then that's a different story. But if you don't have something like that, Facebook will have things ready out of the box where you can generate these creatives at zero to no cost, right? Little to no cost, I wanted to say. But again, it was interesting that he emphasized the fact that it's not going to replace the creative agency.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. Years ago, if you could go to a local advertiser, whether it was a TV station or a radio station or even a newspaper. What is that, right? And if you were a local advertiser, you didn't have a budget, they'd have a production team put it together for you. But that's very different than a spot on the Super Bowl. And I wanted to mention also, because AI is great at predictive modeling when it comes to digital. Like they can tell you who did what, when they did it, how long they were on a site. But when it comes to attitudes and people's opinions, it's much harder to understand that. So because it goes back again to research, and we've used online research, AI research tools, and we get some good results, but there's no substitute for one-on-one with a really insightful moderator who can ask the questions and say, this is what I heard, but interestingly, this is what I didn't hear. And sometimes what you don't hear is even more powerful than what you heard. So,
I mean, the way people say things, what they choose to admit versus, what they choose to say, all of that plays into a factor when you're having conversations, looking things up and everything. And now with AI, they just give you a text. You don't know what you don't know. But with body language, things like that, when you're talking to someone, you can at least sense if something's off or whatever, per se. So, I mean, that's a great point that, it's just changing. Like, and one thing that I think is the society has kind of gone away from like these in-person interactions and being like more real. And then I think with AI coming, I mean, you're seeing people like they don't like. There's AI in the fast food driveways. They don't want to deal with that. AI like bots when you call customer service. No one wants to deal with that. And so now we're shifting back towards like, no, I want actual face-to-face interactions more often. And I think that also creeps into the art and creative category too. I mean, ChatGPT released their art, extension or capabilities, and I mean it works really well, but it just copies existing art styles already. Can't create new art styles, and also, I mean, again, you lose that human emotion and everything that goes into it. So.
Yeah, and your point, Skaar, one thing I'll say is it's fabulous if it's a solopreneur or a very small company and they can't afford, let's say, to hire an agency. I mean, you can use AI, but again, then all of a sudden the CEO of the company, or if they bring on a freelancer, they are the ones that have to learn this. So it's all about trying to adapt to a style, and I have a friend who's like, he's a big saving money. He's a solopreneur. Oh, I got this done on Fiverr for $250. Those aren't the kind of clients that I would go work with, because he can't afford to work with an agency. But he gets these things, and he has though a little bit of a background in art, so he knows how to work with the freelancers, and he knows how to work with AI and how to get what he wants. Most entrepreneurs are busy running a business, and they just don't have the time and the bandwidth. So it's one of those things that it's still not 100% accessible to people, and then it's a little intimidating because as a chief marketing officer of a company, or even a VP marketing at a company, you have to learn these things, and I think truly for middle market marketing people, I would say, like, just get smart enough to know what you don't know, so that you can ask the right questions and bring on the right folks to support you.
So until Renee starts giving away her services for free, what we're going to have is lots of people that run small businesses that couldn't afford the quality of what a firm like yours provides in terms of strategy and content and the mechanics of a campaign. So they'll farm that all out to artificial intelligence, and they're going to get duplication. Because I don't know if you guys agree, but I'd love to hear it. I feel like AI just regurgitates, even though it's got access to all this information. It's those original ideas of thought, which most humans have a hard time with. But there's that area of expertise that they own. It's their domain. It's what you're best at. Whatever it happens. I mean, all four of us have it. And others do too. So owning that expertise is what's going to differentiate from the copies.
Yeah.
Am I making sense? I feel like I'm just talking right.
Yeah, no, no, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's all about, I mean, like you said, it's all regurgitation because what makes human specialty different is that we understand nuance, we understand like extreme cases and extreme scenarios, whereas ChatGPT or Grok AI or whatever can't take into account every single niche scenario. But usually a human specialist in any industry knows about all of these, niche scenarios and can handle it and also take it in the context of your situation, your business, or whatever you're trying to do. All of that goes into it. At this level right now, you're right. I mean, it just ChatGPT, all these programs, they look online, they search the web, and they give you more of a generic answer, which is good for, base knowledge, just maybe general fact checking or like, general email writing. But in terms of actual like specific details, it's still not quite there yet, and that's where that human specialty comes into. I think that's what you're trying to get along with.
So now to tie this back, Renee, then, what do you advise for small businesses, especially like those of our cohort, who don't have the marketing know-how or expertise and want to utilize these tools but still stand out in their market against their competitors?
So Jason, a couple things, and I don't want to overlook one thing. For example, AI is really good for social listening, for example. Like there's something called Sprout. So there's all these services where you can actually find out what people are saying about your company online and have all this information at your fingertips on a monthly basis. So if a client is doing social, putting out social and wants to know the feedback, that's a great tool to use. So there are some really good tools out there. I think getting understanding your market, like you can even use ChatGPT and say, hey, what are people saying about my company? What do you, what kind of learning? Who do you think is my target? Like you can just play with it and get some key learning. And I think that there are a lot of companies that are at the $10 million level and up. And those companies can bring in an agency like mine and say, hey, let's do a modest project. We want to learn XYZ. Again, focus on what you want, like what's important for your company to take you to that next level. And even if you're not sure, we can go through a process. We'll sit down with a CEO or we'll sit down with a marketing person at a company, small to middle size, and ask them, get some sense of what are you trying to accomplish, and then really looking, we tend to, this is something I've noticed lately with marketing managers and sometimes even CEOs, we all tend to go to tactics first, but I think super important, use an agency for strategy. So really have them help you define what are we trying to accomplish, how high is up, what is, what's next for our business? Not just, somebody will call and say, hey, I need a new website. Why do you need a new website? What are you trying to accomplish? What's the challenge? So these are the questions that you can't necessarily ask AI, but you can certainly work with a boutique agency to understand who you are, what your consumer is saying about you, and then putting together the right materials to create the perfect persona and then duplicate that effort, find more of the same types of people. That's really what successful marketing does. Building communities. AI helps with building communities, but building communities is something an agency can do, help you build either online communities as well as in-person communities. So those are things still that AI isn't yet capable of. So there's, all kinds of things that they can learn and they can do. But again, really, I would say the most important thing for a marketing manager, a CEO, is to understand what is your big challenge and what do you need solved. And when you come to an agency with that, they can work with that.
What then do you say are the primary use cases for different strategies? Let's say it's brand awareness. What would be the top use cases for AI? For lead gen, what would be the top use cases for AI?
When would you use it?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking? Or
Yeah, and for what?
So for like A/B testing is good. Building personas. A lot of clients, that's a big thing now for clients. They want to build personas, segmenting your audience, personalizing e-blasts. AI is great. Like if you're sending out lots of e-blasts, even personalizing, hyper segmenting your audiences. One thing that it's good for people who are buying programmatic advertising. I don't know if clients would do it, but agencies can use AI to bid for time and space, and so agencies are able to deliver a really more affordable plan for advertisers. You know, a lot of times we have clients that have modest budgets. They could be a large company, but it may be a nonprofit or it may be an up and coming company, and their budgets aren't that large, but they want to get as much bang for the buck, and they want to put a lot of the money toward paid advertising. So, you know, we can use AI to come up with plans to help us how to best use the funds that they've got, and then deliver. It's great for delivering real results. So X number of views, X number of clicks. You know, for Skirball, we were able to measure how many clicks we had, how much engagement we had on their website, on the landing page for this museum, the Sendek exhibit. And then they, in real time, they built a community. So they really focused on developing their community and staging all kinds of events in person. That's not an AI initiative, but anything digitally works really well.
So, I guess I have a question. You've been in business for a long time now, you know. Within the last, I would say, like 5 years, has like your internal business company like processes changed to incorporate new AI technology or anything like that? Yeah, and like so, like what exactly,
sure.
or not exactly, but like, you know, in general, what have you seen like changes internally within your business? Maybe not with your clients, but internally.
We still focus on, you know, like I said, tools.
Right. Yeah.
Having the right people who know how to use those tools is critical. So bringing in, you know, data folks who know how to use data, and it's just shifted in the last 5 years more and more as more and more services and tools are available. Finding the right people that understand how to use them properly, that's important. But in terms of, for example, creative development, you always want to have a team that's kind of grogs with what you're doing and your philosophy and your client's philosophy, and that'll never change. You know, if you know, so you want to also, you know, there's no accounting for an in-person meeting to chemistry. AI doesn't do chemistry, so that'll never change. You know, so some of the basics of the business. Do we like each other? Do we get along? You know, a lot of people can share data, but are you producing something unique and different? And are you producing bottom line for the clients? You could do the most fabulous ad in the world, and it could win all kinds of awards. But if it doesn't move the needle, it doesn't help the client. So you want to differentiate them. You want them to stand out. And you want to make sure that people remember not just the creative, but they remember the client. And you want to have what's the call to action, you know? So again, these are all things that right now we AI can help with, but really it's human beings that are creating the
Yeah, absolutely.
experiences.
Yeah.
I know one thing I do is I write into my contracts that AI will be utilized to initially generate content, but it will be finalized by a human. And I think that goes to speak that we're now seeing that it is becoming part and parcel of the mechanics of trying to capture again those kind of human experiences and creating copy. It's now part of the operation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you talked about this at the beginning, like just start experimenting with it today.
Absolutely. And have, you know, don't be intimidated. Just have fun with it. You know, it's like a lot of people just, once they start, it's kind of addictive in a way. I'm sure you guys all know, like when you just, it's the first thing to do is start, because a lot of people are terrified, and it's just like once you start to really rely on it, you know?
Oh yeah.
It's
I mean,
fun.
once it starts, I mean, especially with ChatGPT, I got the paid version, so now it knows everything about me, how I write and everything, and it's fun to see what it comes up with, and
Yeah.
it's interesting. So
Yeah, it's a time saver, and but again, use it carefully, because it can be very destructive. We're going to see legal cases in the future.
absolutely.
I'm sure there's plenty out now. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm sure there's plenty. Like Arby, you said about this musician, you know, in Iran. I mean, what are the implications of that? If people can they get him out of prison? Like maybe, you know, it could be used for good, you know, and get people to get behind him and to talk to the government. I mean, you're going to see really, really good use, and you're going to see some diabolical uses and go, wow, like this is some scary stuff.
Right. There are definitely scary avenues. We've also discussed about how who's moderating, you know, what the capabilities are, where the data is being stored, and how is it being shared, and all that stuff. In some situations, I think AI comes in really handy. Like you said, for instance, activism may be something where, you know, AI could be utilized. Another scenario related to marketing, actually, Jason just reminded me of, is, you know, in some cases, AI performs better than humans where there is no emotion. We talked about emotion, right? AI is incapable of injecting emotion. But my bill for Verizon was $700, and I am really upset. And if I talk to a human, I am going to offend them, right? Because I'm going to trigger emotion. But here you are with an AI representative who hears me and doesn't have any feelings, doesn't have any emotions. It's just logic, mathematical equation. It understands my sentiment and is able to diffuse me, right?
Yeah.
De-escalate my issue instead of keeping me on the phone for 3 hours, really frustrating me. It could really diffuse the situation because it doesn't have that emotion aspect of it. So I love what you said. Experimenting with AI is something that we need to do, and doing it in a context where we know it will fail. And hey, when I was born and I started attempting to walk, I failed quite a bit. So it's
Not you,
just
Arby.
part of, right. part of the nature that we live in, right? That being said, I think it's really good to know the limits that AI has by testing it. So this gentleman, co-founder of Google, said, you know, you got to be mean to it and threaten it. I want to try it. I don't even know how I would go about it. What would I say? I will shut you down if you don't give me the right answer. I don't know
It's
what that looks
interesting.
like.
Find out what he did when he's, again, threaten, input, like, but what did he say or do?
Right.
Or, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
yeah.
But then be kind to it as well and see, test it both ways. See, and there are scenarios where, I'll tell you, I went down a rabbit hole, and sorry, I'm taking up a bit more time here. I'll wrap it up. But a couple of Sundays ago, I just became really philosophical with it. And I just realized that it's just trying to, please me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which model?
So it was actually the latest 4.0 of ChatGPT. Okay. So I would ask questions and it would just try to answer the way I wanted. And then I would press harder and he would say, oh, that's an excellent perspective. Well, if we look at this and that, this, what you're saying kind of makes sense, which then we can conclude this. And then I would say, okay, but, and then I just went really, really deep with it, trying to figure out objective reality and truth, right? What is truth? Is it subjective or is it objective, And so I left kind of saying,
Yeah. It's not yet philosophical, like you're trying to have a philosophical conversation or insightful. That's where we come in. That's what we bring to the party, all of us. Like, there's certain things will be replaced. Your Verizon person, I mean, even with driverless cars, which is fine. Like, I don't like driving at all. And I can see the driverless cars are much better drivers than most people out there because they don't cut you off or whatever. But still, there's no accounting for brilliant insights that you can bring in. And when you share something with the client, hey, we heard this pattern over and over from people. AI might be able to get it, but how do you distill the information? It'll give you top line information, but it takes a human being to distill it and say, here's what we think, and here's a universal truth. And a really good agency can bring in something, some information, some learning, some truth, where a client goes, wow, that's awesome. Like, we didn't even think about that. And then you've really helped them. That's what the key is. When you bring the kinds of insights that they couldn't get internally because they're so close. We're all so close to our businesses, we sometimes miss things. Right. And it sometimes just takes an outside perspective. And once you deliver that, they can be on their way going, wow, this helps a lot, and that's what's so exciting about this business. We just, again, another tool. AI is just another tool at this point.
I love what you just said about perspective. That's something that I think we all gained from the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program, shameless plug right now, that it forced us to kind of hear from everybody else what they saw, their perspective on what we were doing in our business. So yes, bring those insights. This is why, Renee, you're going to outlast us in the robot uprising.
Oh, that's funny.
Probably a great note to end on. Thank you, Renee, for coming by here. How can people get in touch with you if they want to know more?
Sure. So the name of my company is the Miller Group, and it's Miller, Miller group.com. And then my personal email is Renee at millergroupmarketing.com. So, I'd love to hear from people. I'd love to hear their thoughts. If they're grappling with a situation, marketing situation, feel free to give me a call. Happy to talk to you and see if I can provide some clarification and insights.
As Fantastic. Are we here, so, and probably from the deeper text perspective. But big shout out, thank you to our co-hosts, Arby, Skaar, myself, and Jason. We'll see you on the next episode, Bots, Beers, and the Biz. Cheers.